This installment, we're going to talk about how listening strengthens relationships. Believe it or not, I find myself checking out a couple of relationship shows that involve people who have just gotten engaged to be married or have plans in the makings of being married. Whenever parties get into disagreements and maybe even nasty arguments that border throwing punches, among the first complaints that the other party wages is that the other person wasn't listening to them. Eventually, if peace and decorum has been restored, one of the more common summations revolve around the other person's inability to communicate among each other. What I rarely hear is how either party acknowledged how they failed to listen to the other person, and that was something that they needed to work on. On the male side of the ledger, it may be difficult to be receptive to the woman because of societal norms about the male being the leader and the standard that he's weak if it appears as if the woman is getting her way and she can talk to him just any kind of way. On the female side of the ledger, well, the justifications are almost similar in that a woman learns from examples that she's seen how she can't let a man talk to her just any kind of way. He must respect her in order to earn her respect. And if he doesn't understand where she's coming from, well, certainly he'll learn about the power of the why. As I gathered my thoughts for this installment, I reminded myself that both parties of a relationship must have an open mind and a receptive heart to regard any words from each other. Using the examples of the traditional marriage between man and woman, there must be a measure of humility and integrity within the man, as well as a disposition to be a good steward of his partner. He must recognize whether his choice of a partner is one who has his best interests at heart. You can say that for the female partner as well, or whether that she or he is nothing more than an opportunist. Now, the woman or male who has the other person's best interest at heart is far more desirable because he or she is more than likely to have credibility whenever he or she does speak. For as many positive examples of relationships that prospered and prevail when the man or woman value their partner or value what their partner says, there are just as many examples of people who have listened to their partners at their own peril. The latter example were wicked people who had wicked intentions and they reaped the consequences for it. Admittedly, I have allowed myself to complicate certain life situations by listening to the wrong source. There were times that I gave more credence to ideas and statements by individuals who never had my best interests at heart. And in the end, I've at times literally paid for making those wrong decisions. So you might ask, what leads us to make those kinds of decisions? I want to say that on many occasions, what they said sounded well. It was something that I wanted to hear and not what I needed to hear. The things that we need to hear are the things that we don't want to hear. And the things that we don't want to hear are the things that sound so nice. So let me make this clear. The person who truly has your best interests at heart will tell you what you need to hear. The person who doesn't have your best interests at heart or has ulterior motives will tell you what you want to hear. And in this day and age, it's unfortunate that there's so much out there. It's so bad that you simply can't trust anything that you hear. Or if you trust what you hear, it's something that quite likely is something that you want to hear. It checks off all of the boxes. But what you end up being is in a communication vacuum. And it could be that in the end, it leads to your destruction. Now let that sink in. What I found out to be true back in 1999 when I first wrote material about people listening to each other, and even now in 2025, there is a mindset that exists among men that if he listens to his female partner in a relationship, it might be construed as a sign of weakness. His reaction may also be one of outright rebellion because it might remind him of being raised by his mother once again. It may also be a sign of weakness for a woman if she is seen as too submissive to a man, as if she's subservient if she knowingly listens to a man. So her reaction is also out of rebellion in that she's not going to allow some man to dominate her, given that she may have been taught to be her own woman and speak up for herself. In its truest concept of relationship, it should be one where the two parties complement each other. That means complete each other. Neither party has all the answers. One party may have a broader view, offering a unique insight that may get them through whatever it is. It could also be said that sometimes it takes an outside impartial observer to apprise each party of the resource that they've already had in their lives. Let that sink in as well. Now, I've spoken rather neutral so far, but I'm going to drive this point home with the guys. I've also found it to be true that a female partner in a relationship can be quite persistent and passionate in making her suggestions known to her male partner. Guys are inclined to call it nagging, but there are times when a woman feels it is necessary that her man should listen to her. It could also be a sign of frustration that he's not attending to her needs, when the truth is that listening to her is one of her needs. A woman wants to know within that relationship that she is the center of her man's attention and universe, and that she's respected, valued, and cherished just as she was told when he was in pursuit of a relationship with her, or as she may have been taught to believe the way men should also treat her. Out of frustration, she'll go as far as trying to arrest this man's attention by mentioning other positive male examples in the way that they regard the woman in their lives. If that doesn't work, she'll become turned off. Sometimes she'll let the man know, other times she won't tell him. But there's a likelihood the guy will go along thinking that everything's fine until it's reached the boiling point. If it's unfortunate, that may be the only time he even recognizes he has a major problem to contend with her dissatisfaction. By then, she may have reached a point of detachment to the extent that he's already considered leaving the relationship. Then he's reduced to asking, "Why didn't you tell me?" Her response, "You never listened to me." Why find out when she's on her way out of the door? And why let her be left with intimating this to another man who's more than willing to listen to the very things that you failed to do so? So that's all I have to share for this installment. Look for another installment on this social media.